Hello and welcome to Forever Motorsports for another daily news video here on this channel. Glad to see that we have a few of you waiting already for this video to get started, and a few of you have already voted in that poll that we currently have running. Which rookie are you supporting for the Japanese Grand Prix? Currently it is split between Piastri, Sargent and Lawson, or equally with 33% on each of those drivers. So we'll move onto our first article of the day. Fernando Alonso is less worried over the Singapore Grand Prix slump after his suspension discovery. Fernando Alonso says he is less worried about Aston Martin's lack of pace in Formula One's Singapore Grand Prix after discovering how much damage suspension he had on his car. Or how much suspension damage he had on his car, rather. The Spaniard labelled his Aston Martin 23 as undrivable after the race at the Marina Bay circuit last weekend, as he struggled to find any performance throughout the Sunday's Grand Prix. It was only after the Grand Prix, however, that Aston Martin realised the extent to which Alonso's performance had been hit by a damaged front suspension shroud, which had come loose on lap 2 and rotated side-on to disturb the car's aerodynamics. Speaking ahead of the Japanese Grand Prix, Alonso did not offer any specific details about how much lap time the problem cost him, but says it explained why things looked so bad. "Definitely it was not helping us," said the Spaniard. "We know how much it affected us, and we will not share it, but it was significant. So I'm a little bit less worried about the performance in Singapore after knowing the damage that we had. The pace was not the real one in the race, and without that, maybe we could have followed the train of leaders and have less problems with the Alpine and Sergio Perez. Then everything would have changed after that. When you're not fast, you get a lot of issues." One possibility for the cause of the suspension issue was Alonso running over the debris from Yuki Tsunoda's opening crash with Sergio Perez. Alonso would not reveal exactly what happened. "It's a private thing," he said. Alonso's struggles at the Singapore Grand Prix, where he eventually finished 15th, came in the wake of an equally difficult time at the Italian Grand Prix, where he ended up in 9th. Those results are a far cry from the form that Aston Martin and Fernando Alonso showed at the start of the season, where it began the campaign as Red Bull's main challenger. But despite having just one podium finish since the Canadian Grand Prix with a second place at Zandvoort, Alonso is clear that there is no sense of frustration or disappointment about the pace Aston Martin find itself in right now. "Not at all," he said. "I'm extremely happy with the project. Also, in difficult races like Singapore or Monza, all our debriefs, all our meetings with the factory, they are very productive. It is the weekends that we learn more in the season. So the steps that we plan ahead for the future, or for next year, when we come to those races, are just huge. I never saw that kind of scale in terms of ideas and things on the table. So the motivation that the team has to become a top team and the resources and determination is just outstanding. I am very happy." He added, "We have to accept that everyone here in Formula One has a very high level. Everyone has great designers, great teams, wind tunnels, all these kinds of things. When we think about our wind tunnel that we have built and will be ready next year, and we have high hopes, most of the teams that they have that wind tunnel already for a few years, so we just level their capacity. We're just now down, so this is something we need to have our feet on the ground for as well. So glad to see that Fernando Alonso is still looking towards this next weekend in Japan with high hopes that their Aston Martin car can perform quite well at a more traditional circuit. I'm certainly hoping to see that Aston Martin being able to do quite a lot better, but we'll have to wait and see what the future holds for Aston Martin's race car. How can Red Bull secure the 2023 Formula One Constructors' Championship at the Japanese Grand Prix? That is the topic of our next video here. Red Bull are very close to securing their 6th Constructors' Championship at this weekend's Japanese Grand Prix. Here's how they can do it. Red Bull are on the cusp of wrapping up another F1 Constructors' Championship. This weekend became their first significant chance after they failed to do so in Singapore. Red Bull's F1 2023 unbeaten streak finally ended last weekend as Carlos Sainz secured Ferrari's first win in over 1 year. Max Verstappen, who cannot win the title until Qatar in 2 weeks, only managed 5th after qualifying outside of the top 10. However, Red Bull are very likely to secure the Formula One Constructors' Championship this weekend. Here's what they will need to do. Red Bull are 308 points ahead of Mercedes and Ferrari by 332 points. If they leave Suzuka with a 309-point lead or more, then they will win the 2023 Constructors' Championship. Red Bull must outscore Mercedes by at least 1 point at the Japanese Grand Prix. They must also ensure Ferrari don't outscore them by 24 points or more. Red Bull have only been outscored by Mercedes at one event this year, which was of course last weekend out in Singapore. On the other hand, Ferrari haven't outscored them by 24 points or more since Bahrain last year. So the chances for Red Bull to take that Constructors' Championship this weekend are really, really high, and will pretty much only be taken away from them if they have a double DNF this weekend, which is highly unlikely, but off the back of last weekend, it's certainly not impossible. As I see, we have F1 Edits in the comment section saying hello. Thank you very much for joining us and commenting in the comment section now. As we also see Mark saying smash that like button. Please do be sure to go and smash that like button. Also him saying no wonder why Alonso didn't do that well on the weekend. I see a few more of you guys have also voted in our poll at the moment. Piastri with 33%, Sargent with 22%, and Liam Lawson with 44% of who of you are supporting for the Japanese Grand Prix. Yeah, I'm certainly hoping to see Liam Lawson having another good weekend. We could see, though, the seat for that second AlphaTauri seat being confirmed this race weekend in Suzuka as well, as there's a lot of rumours going around about that at the moment. Moving on, though, to our next article, Hamilton says something is up if Red Bull doesn't win the Japanese Grand Prix by 30 seconds or more. Lewis Hamilton expects Red Bull to resume its dominance at the Japanese Grand Prix, suggesting something would be amiss if it did not win Suzuka's Formula 1 race handsomely. Red Bull suffered a mysterious lack of performance at last weekend's Singapore Grand Prix, which led to both drivers dropping out of qualifying in the second phase, as neither Max Verstappen nor Sergio Perez could improve on their final Q2 laps. Perez had stated that Suzuka should be one of the best circuits for the RB19 package, which has been an exceptionally strong car in corners that require high-speed downforce and fast changes of direction. Adding to Perez's comments, Hamilton ladled praise on Red Bull's current car and suggested that it should be 30 seconds ahead of the rest of the field in race trim. I would think that if they're not 30 seconds ahead, like they have been in the past, then something's up, said Hamilton. As Checo said, it's obviously a difficult weekend in the last one, but that car should be phenomenal here. They've been phenomenal all year long. They've aced pretty much every circuit. It's going to be great to watch that car in general. Normally you would come here and it's beautiful to watch the laps that they do. The whole team and the drivers are doing an amazing job with the package they have. It'll be interesting to see how the weekend goes. I hope we'll be quicker, and I hope they're not as fast as the 30-second gap. Reflecting on Mercedes' own pace at the Marina Bay circuit, Hamilton reflected that Mercedes had not been too far in front of the pace of the Ferraris and McLaren and Lando Norris, but added that he did not necessarily expect a repeat at Suzuka. In last year's qualifying session at the Japanese circuit, Hamilton and Russell were outpaced by the Red Bulls and the Ferraris, and overlapped with the Alpines on single lap pace. Hamilton took fifth in a rain-shortened Grand Prix. After the race, he said, afterwards he said, I don't know whether that's really the case. The Mercedes had the best race pace. Carlos, though, was managing at the front. We are all relatively close, I would say, at the front, Hamilton added. So, he continued to say, but with a great race, it was just to have us all up that close up front. I think this weekend, I don't anticipate having the performance we had in the last race. We will work very hard to continue to try and push the envelope that we have. I'm hoping that we're not terribly far off this weekend in Suzuka. So, high hopes for Lewis Hamilton this weekend in Suzuka. We certainly hope to have some more competition up the front of the grid, and it would be great to have a Mercedes, Ferrari and Red Bull title challenge for that race win on Sunday. But we'll have to wait and see what this weekend has in store for us. As we move on to our next article, the Japanese Grand Prix. Lando Norris calls for harsher penalties for blocking in Formula 1 after Max Verstappen incidents in Singapore. You've got nothing else to do on an outlap but hit the recharge button and look in your mirror, and people seem to struggle to be able to do that in Formula 1, says McLaren's Lando Norris. Lando Norris firmly believes that Max Verstappen should have received a greater penalty for blocking at last weekend's Singapore Grand Prix, and has called on the FIA to clamp down on harsher penalties for drivers who impede on others in qualifying. Amid a dismal weekend for Red Bull, On the street circuit last weekend out, Verstappen was called to the stewards after blocking in qualifying last Saturday to discuss 3 separate incidents of alleged blocking, 1 in the pit lane and 2 on track. He received 2 formal reprimands, 1 for delaying his exit from the end of the pit lane in Q1 and 1 for blocking Yuki Tsunoda in Q2, with Red Bull also being fined €5,000 for the latter incident, having admitted that there had been poor communication on its part with Verstappen about the oncoming AlphaTauri car. But Norris feels that the world champion got away for the Tsunoda incident lightly, and argues that in general there should be greater sanctions for impeding others in qualifying. I don't want to say too much, as I'll just create controversy. I think that blocking 1 on track was the one that should have been a penalty, said the McLaren driver in Thursday's press conference ahead of this weekend's Japanese Grand Prix. He blocked someone. It's not just down to the team. I know the team got fined in the end of the day, but it should be down to the drivers as well to look in his mirrors and see if someone else is behind. You've got nothing else to do the whole lap. You've got to look in your mirrors, and it seems like a lot of people struggle to do that. It should just be harsher penalties for blocking people, because so many people do it. It ruins your lap, it ruins your qualifying. It put Yuki out in qualifying. He was P1 in Q1, and probably would have been P1 in Q3 all the way. Just no one seems to care, arguing that cases of impeding are on the rise. Norris believes drivers ought to take more responsibility in qualifying when cars on faster laps come up behind them on track. It's especially difficult and has happened a lot this season. It has happened to me quite a few times, especially with certain teams, added Norris. But it's also up to the driver to look in the mirror. You've got nothing else to do on your outlap but to hit the recharge button and to look in your mirror, and people struggle to be able to do that in Formula 1. It's just a surprise. Certainly a lot of comments coming from Lando Norris, not necessarily happy about people just not looking in their mirrors and getting out of the way for traffic on their outlaps when others are on qualifying laps for the race on Sunday. Sitting alongside Tsunoda at Suzuka, Norris added, "I'll probably block someone else, Yuki, and make myself look stupid." In its verdict on the incident between Verstappen and Tsunoda, the FIA said that stewards reviewed a number of impeding and alleged impeding incidents from the current season, and consistent with previous decisions in relation to the severity of the breach, imposed a penalty of reprimand on the driver and a fine on the competitor. Verstappen was also asked on Thursday for his reflections on the incidents in Singapore. Every single instance is different, the Red Bull driver said. The only thing I can say about Singapore is that I explained what happened when I was sitting in the car, the information that was given to me. That was the only thing I could do. Then it's up to the stewards to make that call. Nonetheless, the decision to only impose a reprimand for the incident with Tsunoda had raised some eyebrows. Martin Brundle said, quiet how Max Verstappen didn't also get a penalty for impeding Yuki Tsunoda in qualifying, when considering other penalties applied this season, was a great surprise to many in the paddock, which I confidently predict includes the team and driver in question. That Tsunoda's AlphaTauri team didn't send a representative to the hearing, albeit as the Red Bull Junior team, was a sporting disappointment to me. Well, it's a bit of a disappointment to Martin Brundle, but it is expected between those two teams when you have the sister team of AlphaTauri having an incident with the sister team of Red Bull. We'd expect really for them not really to send a representative and kind of just sort it out on their own. But yeah, impeding has come up into the limelight a lot in the recent weeks and months, and we certainly don't want to see drivers being affected by traffic in their qualifying runs again. So moving on to another article, speaking with Lando Norris yet again, he said, "He pushed me a lot. Norris is full of praise for Piastri after the Formula 1 rookie signs a new McLaren deal." Lando Norris believes his teammate Oscar Piastri has exceeded most people's expectations after the Australian's stellar start to his Formula 1 career with McLaren, which has led to a fresh contract. Ahead of this weekend's Japanese Grand Prix, McLaren announced that Piastri had signed a new deal that will keep him on board until at least the end of the 2026 season, 1 year beyond Norris's current contract. It marked the latest highlight in an already encouraging rookie campaign so far, which included a run to P2 behind Red Bull's Max Verstappen during the sprint shootout and sprint in Belgium and 6 Grand Prix points finishes. Giving his take on Piastri's new deal, Norris said, "First off, congratulations to him. I think any contract that allows you to stay longer in Formula 1 is a great thing. He's pushed and he's performed. He's done everything he needed to do, and I think it's exceeded most people's expectations from what he's been able to achieve early this season. He's pushed me a lot as well. It's not a nice thing. It's not what I want, but he's done a very good job. So congrats to him for continuing for another few years. We've had a fun first half of the season and a lot of progress. I think for him to be part of that progress and to hopefully continue into next year, 2025 and 2026 for himself, it's going to be something really to look forward to. With Norris describing McLaren's lineup as the strongest on the grid, Piastri sitting alongside his teammate during Thursday's drivers' press conference at Suzuka, weighed in with his own thoughts. I'm obviously very happy to have announced it already, Piastri commented. I was already around for next year, but to announce it for the end of 26 now is very exciting. Pushed on why it was a 2-year extension, the 22-year-old added, I don't know. Obviously, I've got 3 years already after this. I think it's always nice to have a sense of security. It's made sense from my point of view and from the team's point of view as well. Longevity and continuation together is a nice bit of confidence for us all. McLaren head into the Japanese Grand Prix this weekend on a high after Lando Norris' second place finish and Piastri's rise from 17th to 7th in the Singapore Grand Prix after being caught up by Lance Stroll's Q1 crash. Yes, well, certainly looking forward to what Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri can do in Japan. It's a more traditional circuit. I think it will suit their cars a lot better, and I'm certainly hoping to see them quite high up on the grid. Maybe we won't just get a three-way fight for the P1 there in in Suzuka, but maybe we'll get a four-way title challenge between McLaren, Mercedes, Red Bull, and Ferrari this next weekend out. That would certainly be very, very exciting. Let's just jump into the comments here. TC saying the blocking will get worse and worse when more teams join the Formula 1 grid in the future. Yes, that certainly could become more of an issue in the future, but I think we just need Formula 1 to maybe have a look at its reviews and its systems in place and maybe figure out some ways to stop these impeding and these drivers getting in the way of each other on their quali laps. Moving on to our next article though, will Alex Albon compete at the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona? Rumours currently going around have been saying that Alex Albon could race in the Daytona for 24 Hours next year, with an article here from dailysportscar.com saying current Williams Formula 1 driver Alex Albon has been tipped to compete at the 2024 IMSA Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona in the GTP class with Acura team Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti Autosport. Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti Autosport has been rumoured in recent weeks to be fielding a Formula 1 driver in the 2024 Twice Around the Clock Classic in Florida. Speaking on the Week in Sports podcast yesterday, Marshall Pruitt believes Alex Albon is the driver in question. It was mentioned that a Formula 1 driver would be part of its Rolex 24 Hours driver rotation, he said. I have heard on pretty good accounts that driver is Alex Albon, the Williams Grand Prix driver. I had one source in particular who tends to be immaculate when it comes to driver information. It's not something that I have heard from the team because I haven't asked, but to me, that's a cool thing. 27-year-old Alex Albon is no stranger to sports car and GT racing. Back in 2021, when he was without a Formula 1 seat, he competed in DTM with AlphaTauri AF Corsa, finishing 6th in the championship in a Ferrari 488 GT3 Evo. Next year, Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti Autosport is expanding its GTP efforts with two Acura ARX 06s. Ricky Taylor and Felipe Albuquerque and Jordan Taylor and Louis Delatraz have been confirmed as full-season driver pairings. This is certainly very, very exciting if we do get Alex Albon getting into a 24-hour seat for the Daytona 24 Hours next year. We'll have to check and see whether that does clash with the Formula 1 calendar set up for next year, but it could be very, very exciting to have the likes of Alex Albon competing in a World Endurance Championship race. And I'm certainly looking forward to seeing that. If it does happen, I will certainly be tuning into that. And maybe we'll get that up on this channel and do a live watch along for that. Maybe we'll have to get Mark and as well to pick up the pace for that because we'll have to stream for 24 hours straight. Yeah, just checking our comment section here. No more new comments from you guys. Do be sure to drop some more comments for me if you have some more questions or any new articles that have come out while I have been on this live news video here. Moving on though to another bit of news here. McLaren have bought a new rear wing to this next weekend's Japanese Grand Prix. McLaren have said that they have not achieved even half of what it wants to do with their aerodynamics of this Formula 1 car, despite recent impressive progress with Lando Norris. I will say that from the car we had in Bahrain, with the improvements in Baku, then in Austria, we're not happy as of yet, but we are making the correct improvements necessary. So McLaren have brought new rear wings for this Japanese Grand Prix. It looks like they have interesting little winglets on the back of the wing. It might just be protectors, but if those are little winglets, that would certainly be very, very interesting to see nonetheless. Moving on though to another one, seeing some new helmets that are being brought in by the Grand Prix drivers ahead of this weekend. We have Zhou Guanyu bringing in a new helmet. He's got a dark blue helmet with houndstooth designs on that for this weekend. We've also got Lewis Hamilton bringing in a striking new helmet. It's chrome, so it's a battle of the chrome helmets this year. We've had Lando Norris with a chrome helmet, and now Lewis Hamilton has a chrome helmet. I will say it looks incredibly cool. It looks really, really awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing that out on track. Yeah, really, really cool. Mark saying, I'm not commentating for 24 hours, but yes, we can have a look at that. Moving on to another bit of information. Who else have we got with a new helmet? Oh, we've also got Fernando Alonso with a new helmet, a Japanese-inspired helmet. That looks also really, really awesome ahead of this Grand Prix race weekend. And then just moving on to our last bit of information here this weekend. And the title of our video, Sebastian Vettel has gathered all of the Formula 1 drivers around Corner 2 in Suzuka for a gathering and a bit of sustainability ahead of the Suzuka Grand Prix. Sebastian Vettel has gone and set up another set of B hotels in Corner 2 of another Grand Prix circuit. He's done this before in Austria, and he has now done this here in Suzuka in Turn 2. It's going to be Buzzing Corner, and they have repainted the curbs there black and yellow, which I find quite awesome. And then they got all of the drivers together here today. It was actually this morning that they got them all together, everyone out on track, including Robert Schwartzman, and Mick Schumacher was there, so glad to see Mick Schumacher was at least able to see his old friend Sebastian Vettel. And they are, as I said, they all got together, painted some drawings, each team got allocated a beehive, and they each decorated a little bit, but really glad to see all of the drivers getting together for sustainability and to just take part in something really, really exciting for the sport. And of course, it's always amazing to see Lewis Hamilton back in Formula 1 and at a Grand Prix race weekend. Hopefully, we'll maybe see him in the paddock this weekend. I hope to see him on some commentating. Maybe that could be quite cool. But we'll have to wait and see. Carlos Sainz was also notably quite late for his for that meeting of all the drivers. He arrived quite late to that. Just reading a little bit of a blurb from Formula 1. They said, "Welcome to Buzzing Corner. Sebastian Vettel brought together all of the teams and drivers in Suzuka to build B hotels on the inside of Turn 2 as part of his biodiversity project. The curbs have been momentarily been painted black and yellow too." Yeah, so very, very cool to see that Sebastian Vettel is here this weekend. And yeah, let's see what some of you guys say here in the comment section. TC saying the McLaren has improved so much since the beginning of the race season up until now, as well as Senna's helmet color is the all-time best for me. Yes, of course, that iconic helmet from Ayrton Senna will, of course, always be one of the most iconic in the sport. But it is always really cool to see these Formula 1 drivers changing up their helmets for different race weekends now that they are able to do that. Just checking Twitter for any more news articles for you guys. Otherwise, I'm going to sign off for you here today. Yeah, just having a look here in Twitter. Nothing too much else that I can see other than a lot of upgrades and a lot of circuit-specific rear wings that are being brought here. It is a medium downforce circuit here in Suzuka, so we're seeing a medium force rear wing for Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, as well as the Alpines. Also looking at some interesting brake shrouds for the Red Bulls. Hopefully they'll get to the bottom of their issues that they had in Singapore. Supposedly they're bringing back those flaws that they had in Singapore that they tried to test out. As well as, yeah, if that doesn't work, then maybe they'll just have to revert back to their old spec flaws. And yeah, we'll have to wait and see what does work for them in qualifying, as well as all of the practice sessions. Just before signing off with you here today, we're going to take one more look at the 2023 Formula 1 Japanese Grand Prix weather forecast. I'm trying to find the latest one here. I've got one here now from Racing News 365. The 2023 Formula 1 Japanese Grand Prix weather forecast. After a washout last year, could we be in store for the same at Suzuka this year? The Suzuka circuit will play host to the Japanese Grand Prix, the 16th round of the 2023 Formula 1 campaign. After a dry weekend at Singapore and Monza, it looks set to change with rain affecting some of the weekend at Suzuka. According to our friends at weareonline.com, September is a wet month in Suzuka, with an average of 195mm of rain. The Grand Prix weekend will see lots of clouds and showers on Friday for the morning practice session. In the afternoon, though, the shower chance decreases, which is favourable for the second practice session. Rain, though, could impact the weekend. Over the weekend, the chance of showers is smaller, as cloud cover and sun alternate. It is not guaranteed to be dry, and a local shower remains possible, especially on Sunday. Due to the local nature of that shower, there's a good chance it will miss Suzuka should it rain during the Sunday's race. The precipitation will be brief and not compared to last year's rain, though. Currently, it is tropically hot in Japan, and in the Suzuka region, it is 30 to 34 degrees Celsius. After Friday's rain, it will be less warm, and over the weekend, it will be around 28 degrees Celsius. So glad to see that it is going to be good weather, at least in Suzuka this race weekend. And just going over a little bit of stats of this Suzuka Grand Prix, all the most important facts and stats that you need to know ahead of this weekend in Suzuka. The vital statistics of this Grand Prix. The first Grand Prix held here was in 1987, with its track length being 5.807 kilometers. The lap record set by Lewis Hamilton in 2019 is a 1 minute and 30.9 seconds. The most pole positions around here is Michael Schumacher with 8, and the most wins by also Michael Schumacher with 6. Suzuka is the only figure of 8 track on the Formula 1 calendar at the moment, and the pole run to turn 1 braking point is 277 meters. Well, we are certainly looking forward to this weekend in Suzuka. It is one of my favorite circuits on the calendar. We'll also be getting up a race or gaming stream for all of you guys that will be part of our build-up package for this weekend. We're going to be joining you bright and early tomorrow morning. It is going to be my birthday, so do be sure to join us in the comment section for that and send all of your wishes. It's going to be a very, very early stream, so hopefully all of you guys will be able to join us. But if you're not, do be sure to just go and watch that replay, watch the highlights from that session. We will be uploading, of course, our review of the first and second practice sessions that are being held tomorrow. The first one is at 4 a.m. South African time. Second practice session, I think, is at 8 a.m. Let me just double check my schedule. 4:30 a.m. is free practice 1. 8 a.m. is free practice 2. So very bright and early, but we will be joining you bright and early for that. Thank you very much, though, for joining me here today for my Formula 1 daily news video. It has been very good to join all of you guys again. Great to have you all here in the comment section. TC saying great news update, appreciate it. And Mark just saying thank you very much. Thank you guys all for joining me. I have been Reece here on